Welcome to Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed.
Where wellness gets a fun twist. I'm Gordy Jenkins, a natural foods entrepreneur, and with me is Dr. Zed DeBout, our resident trained Stanford MD. We are former college swim teammates turned best friends, and now your guide to this crazy world of health trends and fitness hacks with a focus on getting the science right. Get ready for a wild ride. This is Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed. Today, start the buses, because Zed and I are going on a GTH Field Trip to a Pilates class. We'll dive into the history, the cultural rise, and the science-backed benefits of Pilates while sharing our own first-hand experiences. Then it's time for a What the Duck, where we'll explore some of the more ridiculous Pilates inventions before we wrap up, as always, with the Fastfire Questions. But before we Pilates yada 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 yada, let's see what Dr. Zed found while going through health this week.
That's such a perfect lead-in. Today, I have a study by the Stallion et al. Just researcher
nice.
rapper names. That would be nice to know. So, in light of our recent All Hallows Eve feasting, I have a study for you by the title of Toxicology of Food Dyes from the International Journal of Occupational Environmental Health, 2012. So, just a bit of background. Food dyes, they were originally synthesized from coal tar and now petroleum, and they've long been controversial because of various safety concerns, and many dyes have actually been banned because of their adverse effects on laboratory animals or inadequate testing. And you actually see some differences in dye regulations across Europe versus the US, etc. But basically, the review found that all 9 currently US approved dyes raise health concerns of varying degrees. Red 3 causes cancer in animal models, and there's evidence that several other dyes are also carcinogenic. And then 3 dyes, your red 40, your yellow 5, your yellow 6, 7, 8.
Who do we appreciate?
There we go. Have been found to be contaminated with benzidine or other carcinogens. And then there's some numerous microbiological and rodent studies of yellow 5 that were positive for genotoxicity. To sum up, this study basically found that there's inadequacy of much of the testing and evidence for carcinogenicity, genotoxicity, and hypersensitivity, coupled with the fact that I'm hopefully never have to say those 3 in a row again, coupled with the fact that dyes do not improve the safety or nutritional quality of foods. And they ruled basically that this indicates that all of the currently used dyes should be removed from the food supply and replaced, if at all, by safer colorings. And I think it's tempting when you hear something like this and it just maybe kind of your knee-jerk reaction is just to feel bogged down. Oh, this is another piece of bad news. Oh, like everything's out to get me, which it is. And but no, just to feel maybe like a little overwhelmed, or what's the point? But again, with these things, I think it's kind of important in terms of your outlook and your mindset, going back to our episode on
Placebos?
There we go, placebos, about where you can look at this as kind of paralyzing or everything's out to get you, or it can really be a form of empowerment, and you're kind of armed with this knowledge. And a lot of things come down to trade-offs and choice. And while a lot of our default choices may involve eating some of these processed foods or things that contain dyes, there really are other options in terms of whether it's candies or other types of foods. And you can slowly make these choices to iterate on your diet and your lifestyle, and just to make overall healthier choices over time. So again, it's a trade-off. And if you don't care, or if you don't mind the idea of slowly, losing some of your health capacities as you age, and it's worth it to you to eat some of these foods that you enjoy, I think that's, of course, a personal decision. But if you are a person who wants to take action, and this is information that you can use to sort of better your health, I think it's a way to look at it as empowering and less paralyzing.
Yeah, I agree. And, even before I knew or learned that these artificial dyes were bad for you, you always kind of thought they were, right? But you're like, well, you have to eat a lot of them. And if you don't eat a lot, but, whatever. The mechanism's there. And that's kind of what you're saying, is that this is probably the alarming thing. But either way, but even before they were bad for you, I just didn't like having my tongue stained red, or I feel like, or you eat a Cheeto or chips or something, your finger, I just don't like that. It's needless. I always thought that was needless. There's no flavor or anything coming from this. This is all just because they're trying to trick our monkey brain into, oh, pretty snack. It's so bright. It's the shiniest one, and so that's always been kind of, It's ground my gears.
And it's ruining my tongue and fingertip aesthetic.
So, you look like a 5-year-old. You look like a toddler walking around with your lips like you just finished a soccer game and had a red Gatorade. You know what I mean? Like you just have red lips, just a circle around your mouth. So I'm all about getting rid of those, and because they don't serve any purpose. It's just like you're saying, it's just about us having to make the right choices if we want, and kind of force those people to accommodate us with hopefully something that doesn't give us cancer.
For once. Wouldn't that be so nice? But yeah, so that was just a little bit of a spooky follow-up to Halloween.
Well, it was a spooky Halloween follow-up. There was no other spooky Halloween follow-up that I can think of. So, but hey, our subjective today, Zed, is not candy. No. So stop listening now if that's what you thought. No, it is Pilates, Zed. Pilates.
Candy for the body. As opposed to regular candy.
Pilates candy for the body. That's right. Opposed to the regular candy. Today, Zed and I are talking about the trend started by Joseph Pilates. That's a funny name, though. Isn't that, Zed? Is that just like when you first heard it, you really think it was from a guy named Joseph Pilates? Like that sounds like someone panicked and was like, I don't know who invented it. Joseph Pilates.
or he like named it and then retroactively changed his name. So he was like, oh yeah, it's my last name, Pilates.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm Gordy Yoga. Right. Yeah. Okay. This is Joseph Pilates, the man behind the method that is equal parts stretching, strength, and self-discipline. Pilates wasn't just a fitness pioneer. He was something of an outlier with a vision for strength that made him just as uncompromising as his exercises. He gets described as uncompromising a lot. Uncompromising. I bet you can get a lot of things done being uncompromising, but I don't think you're probably the easiest person to be around. Again, you can certainly be a very successful person or not being uncompromising. There's probably a balance, a compromise. But he himself, uncompromising, Zed.
Good.
All right. So let's get into this, Zed. Would it make you feel better? Do you want to push the buttons on the GTH time machine today?
Can I please push the buttons, Gordy, Mr. Yoga?
I want to say no, but can't. Already promised you. All right. So we're going to go. So press. All right. We got 1883. 1883.
Beep, 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 beep.
Perfect.
Those 4 numbers.
Here we go. It worked. Thank you, Zed. You pushed in the right 4 numbers. Joseph Hubertus Pilates was born in 1883 in Mönchengladbach, Germany. Mönchengladbach, the city named after the sound a dog makes when he throws up a sock.
Mönchengladbach.
That checks out. That works.
Sorry, that's my dog.
He was the son of a Greek gymnast and a German mother. From the outset, life didn't go easy on him. After all, he had a German mother. I don't know, but he was bullied, Zed. He was bullied as a child. He suffered from asthma, rickets, and rheumatic fever. And apparently, he also lost his vision in his left eye due to being hit with a rock by a bully. A bully threw a rock and hit young Joey P in the eye. But instead of giving up on his little body, Pilates turned that sickliness into a lifelong project to overcome his limitations. It was the start of a fierce, uncompromising philosophy about health and strength, one that would ultimately make him one of the most recognizable names in fitness, Hubertus.
Are you not entertained? That was Hubertus, right?
That's Hubertus.
The audience just like, damn, Hubertus really bounced back after his pregnancy.
Hubertus is making us all feel bad. From an early age, Joseph the Body Pilates took his body very seriously, more seriously than anyone around him. It's always great, Zed, to be the one that takes everything more seriously than anyone around you. That's actually bully fodder right there, you know?
People notoriously love that guy.
Yeah. It's like, wow, that guy really takes it seriously. By 14, he was ripped enough to apparently pose for anatomical charts. He was like modeling at some German anatomical study school. But
and here's where your left eye should be. Oh, poor Pilates.
poor Pilates. Watch out! Here comes a rock. But he didn't achieve his ripped body following any conventional path. No, instead he became obsessed with studying and training his way through gymnastics, bodybuilding, and even Eastern martial arts, which he learned through self-study.
I wonder how self-study used to work pre-YouTube. Like, is he just getting Eastern martial arts pamphlets or watching someone in the street?
Yeah, he's just making it up. He's like, all right, that's right. That's right. So he thought if someone was willing to put in the discipline, that they could achieve a body resilient enough to defy any physical weakness. Almost any kind, Zed. Spoiler, not emphysema. Not going to spoil anything, but just saying not emphysema. Joseph Pilates would later go on to say, physical fitness is the first requisite of happiness. Saying that with a level of certainty that implied it wasn't up for debate. And I think he was onto something, Zed. Pilates believed that modern life, with its slouching, poor breathing, and dependence on medicine, was at the root of most health issues. I wonder, right then, how many listeners just check their posture.
I definitely did.
It's would hate to be one of those modern slouching heathen that Pilates talks about. I bet we slouched so much more than when he was worried about slouchers. He would be horrified. To him, Zed, doctors were the absolute last resort. I mean, could you also imagine doctors in Mongol-Dongelbach, Germany, in the late 1800s or whatever when he was from? Probably not the most comforting thing to have to go in with your rickets and your eye falling out and seeing the old scary doctor again.
I feel like that's definitely the time period, or of the many time periods, when it's more dangerous to go to the doctor.
Pilates was all about a person first fixing their posture and learning to breathe deeply before ever darkening the doctor's office door. And he would probably hate to listen to your parts of the podcast, Seth, because of your doctor status. But I could see him really appreciating a lot of my stuff as kind of like an outsider rebel voice. But no. So he would think you're one of the good ones probably, and we would be nice to you. But so if Pilates' personal beliefs sound extreme, it's because he was pretty extreme. Pilates took the idea of self-sufficiency and self-control and turned it into a life philosophy, one he was willing to share only with people who met his high standard for discipline. Hot chicks. No. Yeah, it's that's what it seems like. It's paying off. He would be happy to see the class that I went to. In his 20s, Pilates left Germany for England, where he earned his living as a boxer, circus performer, and self-defense instructor. Really, the Mount Rushmore of CTE jobs at the time there.
Good Lord. And I hope that's 3 different jobs and not just one job with a really crazy job description.
Yeah, it's all right, everyone. So once the circus is over, I want everyone to get out there and attack the ring. The ring bearer? The ringleader. What's the ring bearer?
Are you reading The Hobbit?
When World War I broke out, Zed, he found himself interned as an enemy alien in a British camp. And this would have been the end of the story for most people in terms of, them realizing their dreams of being a fitness king. But for Joseph Pilates, it was one of the most important chapters in his training regimen. He started teaching his fellow prisoners, repurposing bed springs from the metal beds to create resistance exercises. He essentially made this P90X for prisoners, which honestly, that is what P90X is. I don't remember. Do you remember P90X? Was that for prisoners? I don't know. It's advertised for anyone. I think it's P stands for prison, 90s for the sentence, and X,
90
I don't know.
years.
Yeah, 90 years.
X is for being dead at the end.
Oh, that's true. 90 till death. Yeah. That's a rough sentence. 90 days till death.
Exercise the whole time.
But so Pilates prison MacGyver fitness stuff was the foundation for all the apparatuses, the apparati that he would later patent in New York City. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those later.
Me just walking by, staring in through the chain link fence on the way to my busy World War I other internship because my stupid mom never sends me to internment camp. And I wish I could be a intern at internment camp and get in the best shape of my life. Must be nice.
Yeah, it's great for your resume too, is what I'm thinking.
Also, imagine you're one of the prisoners trying to go to bed, like laying in your bed late at night, and you're like, this prison bed isn't quite as comfy as yesterday. I hope someone didn't steal a metal spring for their workout.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like all in the middle of the night, it's like, you're like, Joe, I can't help but notice the sound of a spring going. It's said that during his time in the internment camp, not an internship, Pilates studied the natural movements of animals, especially cats. Now you're probably asking, what did the cats do to end up in the internment camps? Well, that's for another podcast, Zed. But by observing their fluidity and strength, Joseph Pilates developed a belief in controlled, flowing movements. Pilates saw this as the key to real physical resilience.
Is that purr coming through?
No, it's coming through. Didn't really sound like a purr. Kind of sounded like your hand just like rolling around in gravel or something. But that's pretty good, actually.
That's how I purr.
That's how you purr. It's perfect, Zed. After the war, he returned to Germany briefly, but when the country's politics turned dark in the late 1920s, he moved to the U.S., meeting his future wife, Clara, during the voyage. Together, they opened a studio on 8th Avenue in New York City in 1926, which quickly became a hotspot for dancers, society women, and anyone willing to put in the effort to achieve a body of what Pilates called Greek god proportions. Why not German mom proportions?
Oh, yeah. Zeus getting ready to impersonate a German woman for one of his mortal escapades, just checking himself out in the mirror. Oh, Frau Zeus, you sexy little minx.
I needed your German voice today. In New York, his methods spread rapidly among the city's elite dancers. Elite dancers, now you're like riff-raff street dancers. We're talking about elite dancers. Now you're back alley burlesque shows. I'm talking to elite dancers. These people were not people who took exercise lightly. And so they became devoted to his method. And like it really like spread through this word of mouth of how much of a genius Joseph Pilates is and how you want to work with him. Everyone who's anyone in the dancing scene is working with Pilates. And it was called contrology at the time, which was a system Joseph Pilates described as the complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. Pilates was equally obsessed with breath control, believing that proper breathing was the first act of life and the last.
You nailed that.
True. So I guess.
Not wrong.
I just a bit of a tautology. He doesn't really prove the important. All right. Well, it's like, all right, that's true. But yeah, he famously incorporated a distinctive exhalation in his method, something that he insisted helped clients achieve strength through intentional, focused breathing. Joey Pilates, he said, to breathe correctly, you must completely inhale and exhale, always trying very hard to squeeze every atom of impure air from your lungs in much the same manner that you would wring every drop of water from a wet cloth. So do that when you're breathing, Zed. Are you doing that?
Are we wringing? I guess we are still wringing drops of water out of wet cloths. So that's the first thing I did when I was born and the last thing I'll do before I die.
So Joseph Pilates wasn't just a fitness guru. He was an inventor with over 26 patents to his name, which we'll get into later on. But he was also uncompromising in his beliefs about health. He trained clients well into his old age, teaching sessions wearing little more than a pair of briefs. Just like pathologically uncompromising. Like, would it kill you to cover up a little bit, Pilates? You're hanging low today. I sent you a picture before.
He looks good.
I sent you a picture of him at age, 82, and he looks great. And a picture of him at in his 50s. Maybe we can post that. Maybe we'll post that later. We'll see.
And it looks like he's wearing the same briefs in both. But yeah, they look great.
Yeah, he's definitely wearing briefs in both. That's for sure. But the other thing he did was he would also smoke cigars, though, because he believed it was the quality of breathing, not the purity of air that mattered most. Wrong. So he missed on he missed on that one. And Pilates passed away in 1967 at the age of 83, reportedly from complications due to emphysema. And while he had his critics, there was no denying his influence. And there have been other people who had fitness programs, even at the time, that were like equipment based. He wasn't the first or the only one, but he was the most enduring for sure, which I found super interesting. I don't know. It's a cool name. Like, he's just cooler sounding than like Gustafson's. Like, I'm going to go, all the girls are doing Gustafson's. I don't know.
Richardson's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Something in Sins.
one other last name. Yeah, Sins. Yeah.
Today, Pilates isn't just a method, it's a global movement, one that began with a sickly child who refused to let physical weakness define him.
Bravo, Mr. Pilates, if that is your real name. But truly impressive. We've talked about this before, about how inspiring it is to have these people who come from such a disadvantaged situation and are just the ones to grit their teeth and just be a real force of nature. Also, dude, just say you like cigars. I don't know in what wild intuition you're like, the air quality, not important. But
for sure,
if you can suck it hard enough, it'll strengthen your lungs.
That is true. No, but honestly, great point though about like he's like just own it. I guess he was just really a man of his brand. Like, if he's doing it, he's pretty like uncompromising. Zed. I don't know if I mentioned that or not.
I would love to see his modern day social media shtick. I bet he would kill it.
He'd be very judgy though. I don't know if he could handle just how we look these days.
That's true.
The state of society.
Slouched. Yeah, that's true.
Well, Zed, that is the subjective. Now, will you hit us with the objective? Objectify us, Captain.
All right. So we covered quite a bit of it in your entering tail. Entering tail? Well,
that's when the tailbone meets the tail.
But yeah, you get it. But what the heck is Pilates exactly, besides this masterful man of uncompromising principles? It is the exercise a lot of us know and love, low impact form of exercise with a particular focus on strengthening the core, improving your flexibility, and basically enhancing overall body awareness through these slow, controlled movements and mindful breathing. Although today it's done without cigars in most places. But it really emphasizes balance, posture, and alignment. Pilates as an exercise form, it really emphasizes strengthening the core, which includes everything from the abdominals, your rectus abdominis, what you think of as those six-pack abs, to your lower back, your hips, and your glutes, your pelvic floor. So you can really think of it much more of as a 360-degree trunk around your whole middle, not just that kind of six-pack abs. So a trunk, not that trunk. What you going to do with all that junk? Pilates, yada, yada, yada. Right. Anyways.
Remix.
The principle here is that a strong core is really essential for overall body stability and balance, and translates to all types of movements and sports and just well-being. So the other piece is really promoting the strong mind-body connection through focused breathing and precise movements, really enhancing your body awareness, really being I'm about to use awareness a lot here, but really being aware of kind of which muscles do what and how to isolate specific muscles and really work them through their full range of motion in a very controlled way. And again, bring sort of this focus and this breathing practice while performing these exercises. And then if we zoom out a little bit, as a low impact exercise, we'll get a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of what exactly Pilates looks like. But it really is gentle on the joints. It's low impact. It's really accessible for a wide range of ages and fitness levels, and also kind of reduces the risk of injury.
I feel like people don't hurt themselves a lot, but like if you were just feeling crazy and wanted to roll in there,
you could if you wanted to hurt yourself.
You know, it's like, let me just put my head through this and let me wrap this around my neck and I'll be ready to go. Pilates, baby.
Put one more spring on there.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it really is. It does reduce the risk of injury, but it's also used in injury prevention. So it's often used in rehabilitation settings. The they'll use it to focus on controlled movement and slowly work patients back from these injuries. And it also aids in rebuilding that strength and mobility safely in a controlled environment. It also really focuses on muscle endurance through these long, controlled, repetitive movements where you're counting way too long for one specific movement, where you're basically dying and quaking like a small lost child on the streets of Mönchengladbach by the end of it. But no, it's really a unique experience, and we'll get more into that in a little bit. There's also a ton of equipment versatility, so you can go to these Pilates studios and they have a range of different equipment, but it can also essentially be practiced on a yoga mat or the floor. You don't even need a mat, but it can also use these specialized equipment pieces like the reformer, the microformer, megaformer. You may have heard of some of these different pieces of equipment. And I feel like you're a little bit more familiar, Gordy, with what exactly the pieces are.
Well, kind of. So I feel like the reformer has like an up top, like almost like a 4-post bed that has like a canopy kind of look to it. And I could be wrong, so please email. Maybe I'm getting it wrong on purpose, right? So we can get an email. I don't know. The mega reformer or mega former, I don't know which one it is like wider, kind of more modernized looking, a little more padded, a little less torture-y looking, to be honest. But they all look pretty torture-y. They're all just a bunch of like pulleys and springs and sliding parts and parts where you can strap your feet in so your upper body can slide, and it's a lot.
Basically, you're able to go in these studios and use a variety of different apparati. But I don't know if you've ever seen the circus act or like Cirque du Soleil, where you'll have the two people. It's usually this couple, this man, this woman, or sometimes it's two just yoked dudes, and they slowly lift and balance on each other while moving at a glacial speed. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, totally.
But it almost feels like it's that type of movement style where it's all about control and prolonged strength and muscular endurance in a way that, and these guys aren't shaken at all, but they're moving through these amazing athletic poses, but at glacier speed.
Totally.
Or it's like, or I feel like it's like if a yoga enthusiast got promoted to chief questioner at a medieval prison, and they'd be called John the Reformer. And I feel like that's also a pretty accurate depiction.
I would agree with that. I think that is John the Reformer. I like that. But Zed, before we continue and we really get into our personal experiences and share a little bit of that with the listeners, let's just take a quick break and hear from our sponsors today. All right, folks, today we are sponsored by none other than Joseph Pilates Prison Toilet Kombucha. Yep, you heard that right, straight from his 1920s British prison recipe. This artisanal elixir is the culmination of pure resourcefulness, truly a wellness experience honed behind bars. And said this isn't your average health drink, this kombucha. No, it's crafted with prison-specific ingredients like crumbled stale British biscuits and a plop of fermented orange peel, lovingly swiped from last week's rations, and just a touch of mystery herbs for that extra kick. Possibly parsley, possibly meth, possibly not. All of it is just aged in a repurposed tin bucket meant to embody resilience in every sip. And let's not forget about the flavors, Zed. Choose from the classic cell block citrus or my favorite solitary berry. And for the adventurous, they have that new flavor, Warden's Surprise, where each bottle is a roll of the dice from the Warden's own toilet. Hey, want to boost your gut health while toughening up your spirit? One swig of this kombucha and you'll feel like you're on a wellness journey through the sewers of history. Use promo code BUBBLEGUT and get a free Rusty bed spring with your order if you order today. Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and rate us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. New episodes Monday morning at goingthroughhealth.podcast on Instagram.
All right, Gordy, if that kombucha doesn't work, put me behind bars. Yeah, throw me in the penitentiary. But no, we're talking about Pilates. And as our assessment today, would you like to share some of your takeaways from your Pilate Latte class?
Oh, yes. Zed, you cannot talk about Pilates without mentioning our own experiences, right?
Oh.
So I've done it twice now. and both experience a little different. But like, so I'm gonna kind of walk through the stages of the whole process. So I'm starting with before the class, like before my first ever class, and like these are the kind of things I was thinking. You've done it a couple of times, right? Like a few times.
Yeah, probably a handful at this point.
Yeah. So my first time, just maybe this is relatable. I was a little nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know like what to bring. I didn't know whether I needed like shoes or like sweatbands, socks, bring my water. I didn't really know. I didn't have any idea. Should I like stretch before? Should I warm up? These were all the questions that I had, Zed. And like conceptually, I was nervous about taking up too much space because I'm 6'5" with long arms, and like I've been in yoga classes where it's kind of tough for me to really enjoy it because by stretching out and putting my arms to the side, like I'm touching someone's fingers, and I hate that.
Like, why does this guy have Cheeto dust all over his fingers?
It's all natural. It's beetroot powder. But so yeah, I was like thinking about all those things. So like before my first one, I just like watched a really like quick YouTube video just so I had like some idea of what Pilates were. Just like what I did for this podcast. Yeah. But the second time I went, it was a little bit more of like a hip class. The first one was very traditional, kind of like these older gals from my neighborhood, and this one was more of the trendy music pumping kind. So like I came with my wife, which made it easier, and we were like arguing about something. So I just wasn't in my head at all about the class. So I was in a good headspace. And I get there, they ask me like, do you know what Legree is? And I don't know why I always do this thing when they ask me like if I've done it before or something. I always like get myself, in my head, I imagine if I like, they find out that I'm a beginner, they're like not going to let me into the class, and they're like, get out of here, he's a stowaway or something like that. So, but I just like lie. I'm like, Legree. Like, I've, Legree, sure.
Yeah, I brought my own water, actually. I'm good, thanks.
Yeah. LaCroix. Yeah, and so and they're like, no, it's the type of class. So it's a slight like variation. What I heard. What the Legree classes are, what they say, it's like they say on their website, Pilates increases your core strength, while Legree increases your core strength, muscular strength, and muscular endurance. It's like, I'm sure they both do. It's just kind of like, it's his way to like probably get around some trademarks. I don't know. But yeah, so I didn't get kicked out of the class, but the instructor was very nice. She was like, very helpful, a little like, maybe like goaded me a little bit, like was enjoying the fact that I was struggling, but in a nice way. Like I didn't feel alienated, but I like, there was some joy in her tone. But she also told me to just like watch others. Like, do you have this thing? Like, it's like the hardest thing. I'm literally the only guy there, and then she's telling me to watch others to like know what to do. That's tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's the worst part, because the last thing you want to do, you're already the only guy like just sweaty and gross in this Pilates class, and you just really do not want to be a gross creep. You just want to be like, I'm just a normal guy. I just want to do Pilates. This seems cool. That's all. And there's mirrors everywhere, so even if you think you're looking away, you're actually like catching someone's reflection in the mirror. So I'll actually do a lot of just closing my eyes, which probably seems a lot less weird.
I was right in front of the trash can, so that was just insulting. I just looked in the mirror, trash can. You're nothing but a trash can.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Wasn't that just your reflection?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. I felt like I might have been one of the oldest. The first class, the traditional one I went to in my neighborhood, it was much easier, much more chill. I was the youngest, the only male. This time, still only male. Maybe the oldest, probably the hottest. Definitely, definitely not the hottest. Probably the oldest. Definitely the only man. But my wife has said she's seen older people maybe there, and I honestly don't even know if she said that. I feel like she might have said she's seen older people there. I don't feel like I'm that old. I don't know. Have you seen older people there?
No, I feel like I think I had one older teacher once. But that's definitely the move is to go with your wife.
For sure. Yeah. Having a wife there made me a lot less like, yeah. I just like had to like keep high-fiving her between sets so people know.
I just got out of the penitentiary and I'm really craving some more Pilates. It's cool, guys.
Yeah. It's just my ankle bracelet beeping throughout the class. The contraptions were cool. Like we've said, they're pretty, they're kind of intimidating when you first see them, but they're fun. I like bouncing around on them in the first class, but I mean, it is,
they are not for bouncing. Please don't bounce on them.
Yeah. Please, sir, please don't do that. it was there. It's a bit hard, like to follow along with the speed of the class and also make sure everything is in the right way on the first one. Like I'm sure it'll be a lot, like it'd be fun when you get out of your head a little more, but I'm still thinking like, all right, so my foot needs to be on this sliding piece, but to the left of this line, and there's a lot of coordination to think of.
I really struggle with that vocab and the rapid pace piece because, and I'm just talking about, it's not, because you're switching through a lot of movements, and I'm not familiar with the terminology. I don't even know, because they'll refer to the front of the platform and the back, but I don't even know which is which. And I'm focusing so hard on not looking like I'm shitting myself, which I'm not, by the way, but I am
not at all.
Just sweating profusely onto the laminate floor and just trying to do the one movement I'm already doing right. And then they start going through the directions for the next one. So no, it is a little overwhelming at first, for sure.
For sure. And then you're trying to like go along with like the pace. The pace was really slow. Like the movements were really like, a lot of time under tension, it felt like, which is uncomfortable and freaking hard. Like I kept like almost laughing just because I'm like, oh my gosh. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling where I'm like laughing at myself about how much this hurts, just holding a squat for so long that I'm looking in the mirror just like, haha, you really did it this time.
Well, I've definitely had the feeling of I'm not laughing, but my wife is laughing, just doing the plank, doing like the very first plank of the session, and I'm already shaking. And yeah, it is not a good feeling, but it's okay.
Yeah, but it went by really quickly, which is something that I like too. They just kind of got right into it. I was still thinking about warming up or whatever, and I was like, wait, I'm probably like well into the main set or the meat of the workout at this point.
Yeah, you're definitely never zoning out or bored for a second.
No, and it was pretty nonstop. Like I don't know about, I didn't have really a chance to drink my water or anything like that. Like it was pretty all go. It might have been in 1 second where she like was explaining the next thing and she said you could get a drink, but it took me too long to like screw the cap of my water back on, and I was just panicking. It didn't even, it's the worst. But yeah, it was overall, like, it was an interesting sort of workout in that I feel like it would be good for me to like do twice a week. And like, I think maybe if I was lighter, I'm heavy, so it's a lot of like muscular strain that I'm probably not, if I built up to it, I could do it more often. But it does seem like one of those things that I would want to put rest in between doing it again, because I was pretty sore. My hamstrings were really sore. Some of my core, my obliques were sore. It is cool though. I really enjoyed it. Like it felt like a very good full body physical therapy almost.
Yeah, totally agree on the cadence. I would love to be in a position where I could go 4 days a week or something, or maybe probably about twice a week would be perfect for me if you're complementing it with some other type of exercise. But no, right. I definitely need the rest days because I'm sore for multiple days, and maybe it's partially because I go infrequently enough. But it's not like your central nervous system is super taxed like it would be after a CrossFit workout or a real heavy weightlifting day, but you're burning, you can really feel it, and it feels like you got to work out, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. I agree. And like the first time I did it, I tracked my heart rate. My heart rate averaged 85, and my max was only 104. And it was more of a chill class. This one was a lot more of a rhythmic, up tempo workout, and I was still about 110 average heart rate. It's like almost a zone 2 and with a peak not too much higher. So it felt like I could do it again. It's not breaking me down so much, but it definitely is. I feel it more than just doing my like resistant band training for PTing my shoulder. And I should note that I had shoulder surgery 6 months ago, and I was still able to do all of this pretty well. It actually felt really good on my shoulder in a way that kind of made it feel a little more normal again.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good time to call out that it really is a full body. It's not just your core or like a booty boot camp kind of thing. You really are getting kind of this full spectrum. There's arms and back, and pretty much it's all about those slow movements under tension, really building that mind muscle connection. And you hear a lot about that, and whether it's weightlifting or bodybuilding. But I found Pilates to be really good because the movement is so slow, and because you have so much time of a specific muscle under tension that you really can practice putting that strain exactly where it should be and learning kind of what does what, if that makes sense. I know, I think it's easy to go in the gym and throw stuff around, but you're not necessarily focusing on certain things, but Pilates gives you that space to do that.
That's a really good way to put it. Like when everything hurts and things you don't even know about hurt, you can really think
Exactly.
about it and breathe into it and
Right.
just have that proprioception and that awareness.
And a great instructor makes such a big difference too, because they can call stuff out or give you tips. And even if I feel like it usually is, I mean, I know they're not judging on purpose. I really do think, like you said, they're just having fun, having someone who's kind of like a fish out of water in class, and they can laugh a little bit about us shaking, but also it's nice getting that extra instruction.
Totally agree. Yeah. I overall really liked it. Do you have grippy socks? Those were, I mean, some of the questions to answer. I didn't need to bring a mat. I barely used my water bottle, but I was glad I had it. I ended up using my wife's grippy socks. They were a little too small for me, but they worked.
Yeah,
Is there anything I'm missing there on the big things
equipment
needed for it?
Yeah, I should have given you a heads up about the grippy socks. Those are the one thing you kind of need, because otherwise your feet are kind of too slippery on the platform. But no, I'll bring a little sweat towel and then just frantically dab a little bit between movements, because otherwise it's just disgusting.
Yeah, same as me. I am a disgusting mess, but it was really fun, and I would definitely do it again. Yeah, I'm excited. I want more guys. I would love to do it with you and have, not be the guy that everyone's wondering about.
Yeah, maybe we do a little Pilates for the boys class where it's just a bunch of guys in their briefs with cigars and getting a little fitter.
That's what, it's like how they have like those old people shopping times where they can go without being like overwhelmed or whatever. It's just like Pilates time for boys. Or you could even frame it as so that women aren't overwhelmed by me like squatting. But Zed, is there anything I'm forgetting, neglecting to mention about the experiential elements of Pilates?
I don't think so. I mean, you just come out feeling great. It's not one of those exercises or sessions where you feel dead afterwards, or like, yeah, or just totally wrung out like a wet cloth. But you just kind of feel a little spring in your step, and you just feel, I know, definitely a little bit in your head, but a little more connected core wise, and just like your body as a mechanical system had a good workout.
I agree. That was my takeaway too. I honestly look forward to doing it again. But Zed, what are some things that you found interesting or compelling about Pilates this week?
Yeah, so I have a couple, did a little research survey and have a couple interesting studies for you. One of the main categories of interest, it looks like, among a lot of researchers, were this chronic low back pain relief from Pilates. So there are a bunch of different studies. One of the ones I found in the Clinical Rehabilitation Journal found that Pilates exercises led to significant reductions in pain and disability for individuals with chronic low back pain, suggesting its utility as a non-invasive intervention for pain management. And it kind of makes intuitive sense if you are struggling with low back pain. We like to think of our body as it is a mechanical system of pulleys and levers, et cetera, kind of draped across the skeleton. And anytime you get these weaknesses or tightness or imbalances, this asymmetry, you can have pain across joints or your back or whatever the case may be. And because Pilates is so focused on this more holistic postural flexibility, core strength, they found that it really does have utility in helping manage and mitigate that lower back pain.
Yeah, which is, I'm all about not wanting to do that. I mean, sorry, I get the lower back pain thing, so I'm that would be a good reason to do it for me.
Gordy never would have figured you as a fan of not having lower back pain. Interesting. All right. Well,
a little Easter egg for our listeners.
So a couple other studies found improvements in flexibility and balance in older adults. So this one study in the archives of gerontology and geriatrics showed that older adults participating in a Pilates program experienced notable improvements in flexibility and balance, which, as they call out, and which is super important, are critical factors in reducing fall risk. So again, this other study, a systematic review and meta-analysis of the benefits of Pilates in the elderly population, found that there's significant differences between the intervention, so having older people doing Pilates versus the control groups of doing a more typical exercise regimen. They found that there's big improvements in the Pilates group in terms of dynamic balance, strength, mobility, functional capacity, risk of falling reduction, and psychological health. So those are huge because falling and injury is such a huge risk and factor for morbidity in elder population. So anything you can do to strengthen, improve balance, and that kind of functional strength and getting around and fall reduction is huge. So Pilates turns out is kind of one of those activities like swimming or pickleball or bigotry that you can do well into advanced age.
True. It's facts.
All right. And kind of in keeping in line with this theme of body as a mechanical system, a lot of research shows that there are real, Pilates himself would have been thrilled at this, but that there are real postural improvements in sedentary individuals. So kind of one of the OG things that Pilates preached was this improvement in these hunching, mouth breathing individuals. And so similar, this research found that people with sedentary lifestyles implementing Pilates actually promoted better musculoskeletal health and contributed to significant improvements in posture and alignment. The point here is, I think a lot of us, even if we think we're active or we go to the gym maybe for an hour a day, we're actually a lot more sedentary than we think we are. So another posture check for you to sit up or stand up a little straighter while you're listening. But as always, some small type of activity or movement is almost always better than nothing. And then this one was really interesting to me. These studies around pregnancy and childbirth and Pilates as an intervention. So basically, they found, so a couple studies, this first one, the effectiveness of a Pilates exercise program during pregnancy on childbirth outcomes, a randomized controlled clinical trial. So this study, they found that Pilates exercise specifically during pregnancy significantly reduces the labor pain intensity, the length of the active phase of labor, and the second stage of labor, and increases maternal satisfaction of the labor process. So I thought maternal satisfaction of the labor process was a really funny metric. Well, not funny, but yeah, something to think about.
That's a weighted scale right there.
Yeah. Excuse me, ma'am. How satisfied are you with labor?
Would you recommend someone else to do this?
Right. Pointing at the different smiley faces. But no, it shouldn't be wild that the idea of that strengthening your core and improving the muscular health of your pelvic floor and your core and all this kind of thing would potentially help mitigate labor pain intensity, but still kind of wild to think about. And then this other study similarly found, so it's called The Effects of Pilates Exercise During Pregnancy on Delivery Outcomes, a systematic review and meta-analysis. So this study found that the Pilates exercise group exhibited significantly reduced rates of cesarean delivery and shorter labor duration. Pilates exercise was associated with a significant decline in the incidence of episiotomy. Look that up, not before lunch. And then the number of women requiring epidural analgesia during delivery. So really kind of fascinating how, again, Pilates as an intervention helped with all of these things, including how long the labor was and some of these surgical procedures that occur for some women during delivery.
Oh, that's super interesting. Cool.
But yeah, so those are the big ones. Again, there's a lot of research out there kind of supporting Pilates from everything we talked about pregnancy, but injury prevention and then returning from injury. We talked about the lower back pain, but really overall, I came away from the literature just kind of seeing it as a great all around exercise modality.
Cool. But Zed, here's the kicker. Pilates is quickly becoming the secret weapon for some of the NFL's biggest names. In an article from The Athletic by Charlotte Carroll, to first name person, from August 2024, basically talks about how the league is full of powerhouse athletes who take hits, run drills, and lift weights, but now many of them are getting down to basics with Pilates. To stay nimble, build core strength, and to prevent injuries. One standout example is Dexter Lawrence. Sexy Dexy. He's having a great season. The New York Giants' 340-pound defensive lineman, known for making big plays and taking down the quarterback. After his game-changing performance against the Minnesota Vikings in last year's wildcard round, Lawrence shouted to a teammate, "That Pilates be getting me right." Lawrence explained, it's probably sounded exactly like me. "That Pilates be getting me right." Right, boys?
Is that Dexter?
That's 340-pound Dexter Lawrence. Yep. Lawrence explains that Pilates helps his lower back and core, improving his flexibility and resilience on the field, quality he relies on when plowing through the line.
I've genuinely never felt more motivated to do more Pilates. Me doing the sack dance after tackling my wife through the coffee table. Pilates be getting me right.
Watch out for the sack dance.
Hey, it's a football thing.
Miami Dolphins linebacker Jalen Phillips is another Pilates convert. He describes it as his mind-body workout, saying, I voluntarily go to shake like a leaf and hold these extremely challenging positions. It makes my body stronger, but it also makes my mind and spirit stronger. I leave Pilates with a glow. Phillips has been using it, not just for strength, but to recover from nagging injuries like hip and groin issues. For Phillips and about 10 of his teammates, Pilates has become a staple workout.
Me looking over at Jalen during class, just shaking my head at him shaking. No, I'm shaking too, Jalen. We all shake. It's cool.
Oh, I was shaking for sure. For sure. And it's not only the younger players either. Veteran Packers defensive tackle Kenny Clark was initially skeptical, saying, you don't really see a lot of men or bigger guys doing Pilates. I was like, nah, I ain't doing it. But here I am. So there you go, Kenny. I can sympathize as a bigger guy and a man doing Pilates. He's been working with trainer Nikki Lau for 3 years now, who tailors sessions to target players' weak spots. She's worked with everyone from Chicago Bears center Coleman Shelton to 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey. Her clients range across positions, heights, and weights, and all of them swear by the injury prevention and recovery benefits. So it actually looks like she has an LA studio, which could be neat to check out. Even retired 5-time Pro Bowl guard, a big boy, Trey Turner, says Pilates has been transformative. Recovering from a torn quad, Turner explains, it's like, damn, I didn't lift 1,000 pounds or run a million sprints, but I held this pose for like 3 seconds and felt it 3 days later. That's true, man. I feel it 2 days later now. And Turner says he wishes he discovered Pilates earlier in his career, saying, I'm doing this to help aid me in football, but also to help me in life. When I wake up in the morning, my knees don't hurt.
Wow. Nice job, Trey Turner. Now just don't piss off Tina Turner. Let's keep those knees healthy.
That's right. With each of these players testifying to Pilates' impact, it's clear that this isn't just a workout for dancers or our wives. For these elite athletes, it's becoming a key part of their training regimen, one that keeps them strong, centered, and just a bit more resilient.
Nice. Yeah, totally echo that. That's so cool.
Well, thank you. And before we wrap up today, Dr. Zed, let's synthesize this episode a little bit. What are the GTH Big 3 bangers?
Okay, here are the GTH Big 3 bangers of Pilates. So, number 1, reform follows function, the tenets of Pilates. Basically, you got your core strength, flexibility, posture, balance, and those all tie into your body working as a mechanical system. Again, if you strengthen your core and you work on your posture and alignment and all these things, your body can just be more effective as a mechanical system. So that's kind of the principles behind these different tenets of Pilates. And again, the exercise takes this form of these slow, controlled movements with real focus on the mind-body connection. And this type of training really has applications across all types of activity and sport, whether you're preventing falls in the elderly or getting back to football shape as a defensive lineman. But no, so that's reform follows function.
Cool.
Number 2, it's not just for cats in internment camps. So while it seems like maybe relatively light work in terms of there's not a huge load, the resistance is relatively light. It's not your type of HIIT interval training, that kind of thing. It's relatively low impact. So it's maybe a little more accessible for a larger range of ages. There's also this minimal equipment needed. Again, you can go to these studios that have a range of different apparatuses. But basically, if you really want to get exposed to Pilates and try it out, you really only need a yoga mat, if that, to go through some of these movement sequences. Number 3, let's get it started and hot. So just want to give some more practical advice about how to get started. So I get a guest pass with my wife sometimes, which is free. She gets like 1 free guest pass a month. There's free trials at some of these studios. And in terms of the studio sort of setup for Pilates, it is really nice to have as the instruction, which we talked about earlier. A good teacher is really worth their weight in ginger. But no, it can be nice to have that hands-on teaching. But if you don't want to do the studios or it can be pretty expensive, again, you can go the way of Pilates and do a little bit of self-teaching. So there's a bunch of good tutorials, et cetera, on YouTube. I know there's virtual classes, which are typically a little less expensive. And barring all that, just watch your cat around the apartment and maybe do what he or she does.
Now that's healthy.
Thank you, Zed. Everyone appreciates that today. Sorry, I was just staring at my cat, just be like, what a role model. All right, Zed. But now it's time to dust off an old segment. It's What the Duck, a perspective on quackery about some of the more peculiar or lesser known Pilates inventions. What the Duck? A perspective on quackery. Well, we've talked a little bit about reformers and mega reformers, and I think we said Cadillac, but we still don't really know what those are. But Zed, I just wanted to share some of Joseph Pilates' lesser known or more wacky inventions, the kind of contraptions that you're unlikely to stumble across at your typical studio. Not necessarily. So like, some of these we've talked about are staples, but some of these are a little bit more obscure. They aren't really household names, as you'll see. But maybe some of them still are in use. So if you use any of these contraptions, email us.
Good for you.
Yeah,
No,
I'd be interested. or good for you. Sorry. Or no, email us. That's right. I was right. Email us. But let's start off with the breathacizer. Okay, so this is a device that really embodied Pilates' dedication to breath control. It's that I shared a picture with you, but it's a small propeller attached to like a thin tube. And it's not much larger than a ping pong paddle. And the goal was simple. You'd blow into the straw and it would make the propeller turn. So it was Pilates' way of making breathing feel like a resistance workout, turning lung control into a mental and physical challenge. And look at that price point on that picture. That is about $125 for a stick, a straw, and a little wheel.
Hey,
we could just whistle or something, Zed.
You can't put a price on being able to breathe, Gordy. But no, it's actually, there's actually a really similar tool. It's not quite this setup, but very similar tool function-wise that they use in the hospital all the time for patients recovering from respiratory illnesses or pneumonia, that type of thing. And your insurance might even pay for it. You just have to land in the hospital first, I guess.
Yeah, I just got to get that respiratory illness. So the breathacizer wasn't just a toy. Joseph Pilates screamed to his parents as he stomped up to his bedroom. That's just a toy, Mom. Never take it seriously. It was a tool to drill patients into mastering exhalation. But despite Pilates' insistence, it didn't really catch on. I mean, like I said, I have seen, in some places do have them. I bet COVID really wasn't great for sharing these in class. But breathing techniques still, though, remain core to Pilates' method. But the breathacizer itself has more or less become a relic. I don't think I'm going to pop into class and everyone's going to be tooting on those things. All right, next up's the toe corrector. Does that sound fun, Zed? The toe corrector?
Anytime a corrector is involved.
Yeah, he's a judgy. Pilates was a judgy man. This was a small handheld device with 2 foot plates. 1 feet plate or 2 foot plates, really. And it was, as always, connected by a spring designed to help align and strengthen the toes. I don't know. The dude had a lot of springs around him, it feels like, is what I'm gleaning from all of this. Pilates believed that balance and posture started from the ground up. In his view, if your toes weren't aligned and strong, you couldn't expect much from the rest of your body. Putting a lot of pressure on the toes there, Pilates. But while his theory was, I guess, like logical, like, okay, sure, you gotta have those toes straight. The device itself was rather uncomfortable. Clients would have to push and pull the toe plates to strengthen each toe individually. I don't know. It sounds like a medieval physical therapy. I don't know. Doesn't sound great. But I would definitely use the toe corrector over this next one, Said. The next one sucks.
Wait, real quickly on the toe corrector. There's quite a big bunion industry out there. I don't know if you've ever looked at some of these things, but there's toe yoga as a form of strengthening your toes and practicing that. But there are modern day separators. There's all kinds of stuff, and then for toe strength. So maybe toe corrector is making a resurgence.
Yeah, but I mean, if you should really just look up one of his little contraptions, I bet that has fewer springs nowadays.
Yeah, I guess
I feel like you can do it with fewer springs
around my toes.
But yeah, no, I mean, there's so much. We got to do like a feet episode because like the spacing your toes out really can make a huge difference with foot pain for runners and stuff like that. So, hey, maybe I should just hop around with toe correctors on like a weird mermaid or something. I don't know.
Yeah, mermaids famously in need of toe correctors.
Their feet are locked together, is what I'm getting at. All right, moving on to the one that sounds the worst to me, which is the neck stretcher. The neck stretcher. I saw pics of this. Said hell no. Is all I gotta say. I'm not doing it. These mother rickets just need to put the springs down because the neck stretcher will look like something that you might see in like a really mean chiropractor's office, or maybe like in a museum of outdated medical equipment, because essentially it was. But so it's essentially this strap that you was wrapped around the head with you guessed it, a spring on the back. Clients would pull against the spring's tension to stretch and strengthen their neck muscles. And Pilates, of course, believed every part of the body needed careful conditioning, including the neck. So while the idea was to build strength and alignment, the neck stretcher didn't age very well. Again, likely because nobody wanted to risk injuring their neck in pursuit of Pilates' vision of excellence.
Unrelenting. No, have you seen the more modern versions of this? I think they were advertising a while on Instagram, and it was going through sports circles as kind of this concussion mitigation tool or prevention tool. But basically, this kind of gyroscope helmet you put on your head with this resistance band you could attach to a secure setting, and then basically just moving your head through these ranges of motion to strengthen your neck. But this is exactly what it reminded me of.
Yeah, I watched some videos of like Mike Tyson working out recently and kind of doing something similar for his neck strength. I could see that just being good, just not wanting your head to flop around so hard. But again, I would not go to a class where I'm like, hey, this is my first time with Pilates. And she's like, all right, well, let me just measure your neck. Oh yeah, this will fit right around there. Oh, we're going to have to tie a new one for you. We're going to have to tie a big one for him.
We need a bigger
put this around your
spring.
neck. Yeah. Are you sick of your short little neck? I'm like, no, I'm pretty okay with my neck, but okay, let's do this class. I'm willing to try anything. But this is actually like from the website where they sell the neck stretcher for Pilates. And it says, the neck stretcher for Pilates has a strap that is tied around the forehead and back of the neck, a ring that attaches to a machine that exerts resistance, and 2 rubber straps that attach to a Cadillac, wall unit, or guillotine tower. Like, that's probably what they call that.
Jesus.
Like, no thanks. Please don't hook it up to the guillotine tower. Just like the neck stretcher's fine. It's already stretched out. Super long neck. Like, just don't, not the guillotine tower, please.
Although I can see the neck stretcher being really helpful right before the guillotine tower.
Just like snake your way out of there and bite the executioner.
Or it's more for the executioner, just more to work with.
That's true. Gotta think about the executioner. So there's also something called the beanbag roll-up device.
That's what Gordy calls his briefs.
My briefs, my beanbag. That's fair. I don't wear briefs, and I do call it, but I would call it my beanbag roll-up device. It sounds like a food, right? Not a food, Zed. This is basically just like a forearm workout.
Oh,
it's just no springs, which is really cool. No strings attached.
Well, how does it work?
Yeah. It's just like when you're rolling up like a weighted bag and just like kind of getting your forearms going. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Pretty like standard idea. Impressive he got the patent. I don't know if he's making anybody off that. All right. But let's move on to the magic circle. You heard of this one? This one's still in use apparently. I didn't use the magic circle when I was there, but back in the day, the original magic circle was made out of a metal ring from a beer keg, and like this is like some weird little like hula hoop thing that you can play around. No, it's not a game, Mom. You can fitness. you can work out with.
The rest of the kids running along the street with their little sticks, like pushing the hoops, and he's just like
for sure
got it between his thighs.
Yeah, that's exactly
rolling
right.
up his beanbag.
So I read through like all of it. He has a bunch of patents, and I actually read through these like super old patents. He patented something called the catapult, which is unfortunate that one never made it into our classes. It was it's there. He also patented some beds, and these beds also had springs. He's probably like, what could I do with all these springs? Oh, a bed. Yeah, and so he had like these beds with springs attached. So like you could exercise on the bed, and then when it was in a flat position, and then you could like convert it with Pilates magic springs into something you could sleep on. So you could both work out on it and sleep on it. So nice. Some of that good prison chic.
Yeah, you aren't supposed to do anything in bed except sleep, sex, and Pilates.
Yeah, that seems about right. But But yeah, no, and I shared with you just a list earlier, but just he has a lot. He was a driven dude. He was a very creative, inventive guy.
No, we'll post a picture to socials this week so you can put a face and some briefs to the name.
Some briefs. Yeah, and Joseph Pilates' inventions, they reflect a man who wasn't just ahead of his time, but operating in a world entirely of his own making. He was the Willy Wonka of springs. His tools were simple, springs, yet demanding. Each crafted with a single purpose, to make your bed more comfortable. No, to bring your body and mind into absolute alignment. And while some of these gadgets have faded into obscurity, they reveal an unflinching dedication to his principles, a man who believed that every muscle, bone, and breath should be under our full control. So, email us, anyone, if you guys are using any of these torture devices, because that we would love to know. GordyandZed@gmail.com.
I wonder when the term contrology or controlology, whatever it was, fell out of favor. Like, do you think he used Pilates during his time? Or was it
I'm glad you asked that, actually, because it probably happened around the late 70s to early 80s. And back in the day, dancers and stuff would eventually start referring to him, because what was outside of his original studio said Pilates studio. And they would eventually, they would say stuff like, "Oh, are you guys going to go to Pilates today?" And they meant the guy himself. Like, "Are you going to go to Pilates for PT?" Because he was like the PT whiz for all these elite dancers. So they would just start saying that colloquially, being like, "Oh, you guys going to Pilates?" And by that meaning literally to his office to work, to meet the guy himself, to have him perform PT on them. And so that kind of just started spreading by word of mouth in the 80s or something like that. But I also learned that a lot of the older dancers who he originally taught still call it contrology. They're like, what are Pilates? Like, we've never called it that before. And this doesn't even look anything like contrology that I know.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder how much variation there is between these classes and sort of these different schools of thought. But interesting.
I agree, but there's no time to ponder that, Zed, because if you know what that music means, you must know that it is time for our Fastfire Questions.
Gordy and Zed's Fastfire Questions.
As always, we start out with the first Fastfire question, which is, would you rather?
Would you rather?
Zed, would you rather eat a stick of butter every morning after waking, or take a shot glass full of salt? So let me break this down for you for a second. All right, so let's say one stick of salted butter, roughly 92 grams of fat, 1 gram of protein, 810 calories. And then let's say like a shot glass, just a cool 810 calories of fat to start your day. 1 gram of protein. Or you can have a shot glass. Say that's like a volume that would hold like 1.5 fluid ounces. And let's just treat salt as a liquid for this, as like water. So let's say that's about 20,000 milligrams of salt. That's a lot. Actually, I'm going to change this up. That's too much. 20,000 milligrams is like 10 times your daily. No, that would probably be rough on the kidney. All right, let's say a tablespoon of salt every morning. So that's like 7,000 milligrams. So still about twice your daily limit. What would you do daily?
Yeah, I think I would do the tablespoon of salt. I mean, I kind of like the idea of throwing a stick of butter in my smoothie. I don't know. I bet that would be pretty rich and delicious. You do like a nice chocolate protein, a little peanut butter. That's just a butter shake at that point. But no, I think from a longevity standpoint, I would do the tablespoon of salt and just count on being an active, sweaty guy that I could just treat it like a super strong electrolyte drink. And I know some of the electrolytes coming out now pack a pretty high volume of salts, but no. So yeah, I think I'd do a tablespoon of salt. What about you?
I don't know. Yeah, probably the salt, but that really sucks. I would have to I would retain it. I'd feel like I wouldn't feel good, but either way, I'm not going to feel great. I think I might do the butter, to be honest. Yeah. I think I might do the butter. I think salt. I think I have a sensitivity to salt, and I think I'd mess me up. I'm worried about my kidneys or something like that. But I would enjoy the salt more, though. I think, I would just probably start adding tequila into my morning routine. I don't know, just having a good time. But there's no time for that said. It is time for our next question, which is, would it kill me?
Would it kill me?
Zed, would it kill me if I was hung upside down by my ankles for 24 hours? Just like, I don't know, I get trapped in a reformer. I'm hanging from my feet. Upside down, blood's pooling to my head. Am I gonna die if I'm just hanging there for 24 hours?
I think you probably, I mean, not probably, I think there is a non-zero chance that you could, just in terms of whether you have some sort of arterial or venous event and like get a stroke, or you could have some sort of cardiac failure given your heart is having to pump a little bit harder in this situation. I know I could imagine some vision issues. I think there's a non-zero chance. And God, that just sounds awful to be upside down for 24 hours. I don't know how bats do it. I don't even know if bats do it.
Good question.
Yeah, I wonder what
What's the blood pressure? I honestly do. Like, it started as a stupid thing, but I was also like, wait, I wonder if they do have any like differences about how, because you know how like one chamber of our heart would be like stronger because you're trying to like pump through an entire body against gravity, you know, or something like that. Or, you know, just like paraphrasing. I wonder if there's something. That's interesting. All right. Well, thank you.
Well, I guess we're doing a bats episode.
Yeah. All right, cool. But before we do our bad episode, it's time for Shock the Doc.
Shock the Doc.
All right, back to Pilates for a second. In 1999, Zed, the fitness world faced a showdown over the name Pilates. Sean Gallagher, who had trademarked the term in the 1980s, was flexing his legal muscles and forcing licensing fees for instructors and studios who dared to use it. And then enter a group of Pilates instructors who weren't ready to roll over. They argued Pilates was generic, like yoga or Zumba, and shouldn't be owned by anyone. In 2000, the U.S. District Court agreed, ruling that Pilates was indeed a generic term. The result, instructors everywhere could now teach Pilates without paying a cent to Gallagher, changing the fitness landscape forever.
Jesus, another Gallagher trying to mess with our melons.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly where I thought we'd end this one today. Everybody, thanks for listening to Going Through Health with Gordy and Zed. Listen each week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. New episodes available early Monday morning. Follow us and rate us and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Please give us 5 stars or whatever the most is. Max out the approval. We need your approval so badly.
Please.
Going Through Health .podcast on Instagram. We'll probably hit you with some Pilates pictures. Maybe Zed will post his beanbag roll-up device. Who knows? Any questions, concerns, or using any of these weird devices you used to breathalyzer recently? Email us at GordyandZed@gmail.com. We appreciate all the emails we've been getting, and we will be introducing a listener mail segment soon. We just need to get our lives in order. Zed, thanks for being with me today.
Thanks, Gordy. I say we change into something a little more comfortable. Take out a little cigar, and let's strengthen our core. No, I want to say something else. I'll see you in health.
All right, see you in health.
Hey, this is Zed. This podcast is intended solely for general informational purposes and does not represent the provision of medical advice or the practice of any professional healthcare services. No clinician-patient relationship is formed. Nice try. And the use of the information provided or materials linked is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not meant to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should seek medical advice for any health issues they may have and should consult their healthcare providers for any such concerns.